Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Cox, and I'm the host of the New America Movement. We appreciate you tuning in to our show today, and we've got a great show for you. It's good to have my co-host, Jordan Cox. Jordan, tune in real quick.
What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing this evening?
Oh, we got a great show. We're going to be talking about what has been on the news so much this week. Everybody is talking about the raid on Trump's home in Florida. It's amazing because I guess you just have to ask yourself the question, what is going on in our political world today? We are attacking a former president under an act called the Espionage Act, which assumes that somehow or somewhere Trump had taken some vital information that would threaten the security of this country. And obviously these hearings that we've had in Congress have incited people to believe that the FBI should have that authority to go in and for several hours pounce on his home, get into his safes, and take what they thought would be a security issue for this country. Jordan, what are you thinking about all this?
Well, I think this is complete bullcrap. I think the FBI is a joke. I think Merrick Garland's a joke. I think that everything about this is what they do in China.
It's politically motivated. Sure it is.
So for those watching, what I mean by what they do in China, you can go after your political opponents. And what I mean by that is you have the FBI raiding Donald Trump's house, Mar-a-Lago down in Florida. Donald Trump is a former opponent of Joe Biden and potentially his next opponent in 2024. They are going to try and do everything they can to make it where Donald Trump does not run again. And so you got, the moment he was president back in 2016, the first day he was already hit with Russia. The very first day, it was already, he cheated to get in. It was already, well, he's a Russian asset. And so we fast forward now to 2022, the FBI comes in 2 months prior to this. 2 months prior, and says, you know what? They look at these documents and everything. They say, you know what? This just needs to be secured better. You have the Secret Service that are there, and they tell the Secret Service to put a lock on it. They put a lock on it. They come back 2 months later. Now, let's pause. Because if it was that important, and they saw them documents, and they were like, Trump ain't supposed to have these. Why didn't they just take them then? So they come back 2 months later, bust the lock that they told him to put it on in the first place, okay? But take it out. Now, there's reports saying that there was nothing in it. There's reports saying that there was classified information in it. There's even people saying that there was nuclear papers in there, which could literally mean anything. That doesn't mean that he had, the nuclear launch codes down there in his basement, right? But this is where I find this extremely hypocritical, because they say he had classified information, right? Trump says that he declassified it after he left the White House. Okay. Well, how come, and you can answer me this, how come they didn't go after Hillary Clinton? Because she had classified information. She had stuff that she was not technically supposed to have, and she deletes it. She deletes it. She erases it, makes it go away. So that right there is, for me, and you let me know what you think, for me, that's grounds enough for the FBI to say, we need to look more into this.
Well, I think the issue here is motivation. I know CPAC did a straw poll a couple of weeks ago, and they said that if an election took place today in the Republican Party, that Trump was like 75% of the straw poll, and DeSantis was only 25%. So that was an alarming number. I figured the numbers would be pretty much 50-50, but Trump pulling out 75% in a straw poll, and I know that that's not a deciding factor in any election, certainly, but I think it's enough that it scares the left to think that, wow, this guy could actually become the president of the United States again. What do you think? Do you think this is politically motivated then? I think they're scared. I think
1,000%.
he could be the president of the United States again.
1,000%. I want to read something real fast because this is absolutely amazing. So you have FBI agents seize classified records from President Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago during the agency's unprecedented raid on Monday, including some marked as top secret. According to a warrant and property receipt unsealed Friday, the documents had earlier been reviewed and reported by Fox News Digital. Former President Trump is disputing the classification, saying the records have been disqualified or declassified, as we talked about. So this is where I want to get to. According to the warrant, reviewed by Fox News early Friday, U.S. Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhart signed the warrant on August 5th, giving the FBI authority to conduct its search and, quote, on or before August 19th, 2022, and, quote, in the daytime 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., end quote. They had it Friday, the warrant. Why'd they wait till Monday? Why did they wait till? So you have a warrant and you can go, but you wait till Monday to do it? So the whole, and they were there for 9 hours at this home. 9 hours.
Let me jump in here now.
Okay,
when you do a warrant, it needs to be executed at that moment, because you know, and I know, a lot of bad things can happen in almost 3 days. For example, you know, someone could call Trump's one of the inside guys that he has and say, "Listen, you're going to get raided. Get prepared for that." What would that give Trump the authority to do?
Well, I got a better question for you.
Okay, well, what is
Why
it?
didn't they go to a federal judge for the warrant? Why'd they go to the magistrate that has ties to Jeffrey Epstein? Anybody? No? Okay. We have the FBI serving a warrant on a president of the United States of America. The first time in history this has happened. And you're going to sit here and say the reason you did that is because of nuclear paperwork, classified documents that he shouldn't have had, whatever reason behind it is. Okay, cool. Well, then how come you didn't go to a federal judge?
Well, let me say this too. Any classified documents that are in the White House, and you know, I've had the privilege, both of us have been to the White House. We've had that privilege of visiting that beautiful home. But what you know, that place is surrounded by Secret Service people. And could you imagine the security that would be in the rooms where these papers are being passed around? I don't think the President of the United States would have the authority or the will to just go into a secured room, take a briefcase or boxes, and he and Melania just start grabbing papers and putting them in boxes and saying, let's take this document, let's get this document, loading them in boxes, and then having their help or whoever's with them say, hey, put that on the cart, take it and go put it in the trunk of my car. I just think that those rooms where those papers would be secured at would have Secret Service agents in them that would say, no, you can't take that unless it was prior approved by a higher level of administration that was over those archives.
They wouldn't even let the Donald Trump's lawyer in there. They were there for 9 hours. You know where they went for 9 hours? You know how big Mar-a-Lago is? You know where they went for 9 hours? They stayed right where so they stayed in the office of 45, which is Donald Trump's office. They all storage rooms and all other rooms or areas within the premises used or available to be used by the former president of the United States and his staff, and in which boxes and documents could be stored, including all structures or buildings on the estate, the warrant states, but did not give authority to agents to search areas being occupied by Mar-a-Lago members or not used by Trump and his staff. This is a direct attack on Donald Trump.
Sure it is. Sure it is. And what I'm saying, son, is that if you're the president of the United States, you're in the White House, those high top secret files, for example, if some intelligence agency said Iran actually has a nuclear weapon and here's the document to prove it, that document would not just be laying on the table of the President of the United States, nor would it be in a file sitting on a secretary's desk. Those documents are highly secured in archives. If the President of the United States loses the election, or for whatever reason he's leaving that office, he doesn't have the authority to go in and just pull that paperwork out, put it in a box, and take it home, unless the director of archives over that particular area says this is information that you can leave the White House with. So either you're saying Donald Trump stole
Other
that
presidents
stuff.
have done it.
Well, but it doesn't make. That's the loop I don't understand. So my thing is, I think they got nothing. I think that when they raid the home,
glad you brought that
the
up.
actual information will be absolutely zero.
Well,
What do you think?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Either they have nothing, which I believe they have nothing, or this is simply and only, which I personally believe, an attack on Trump, just so, for instance, just so it's like a warning to me, saying, look, I got the DOJ and the FBI, Biden administration. I weaponized them. I sent them to your house.
The search warrant was authorized by a federal court upon the required finding of probable cause. I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter.
Now, like I said before in the show, this is what China does. We talk about China a lot with Joe Biden. How come all of a sudden Biden administration looking a lot like the Chinese government, saying, if you run against me and I don't like you, I will weaponize my intelligence agencies and I will send them after you. That in itself is grounds for impeachment. That in itself, you are abusing the power that you have been given, and all you're doing is solidifying Donald Trump even more.
It is obvious that the left will use any means they can to stay in power. What scares me is how far will this go, and what most people sitting on their couch listening to these news articles and watching Fox News and CNN are saying, well, what would they do to me if we allow the abuse of power to reign so strongly over a former president? What in the world would happen to me as an individual? So you can't say that the American people aren't concerned about the authority and power of the federal government, because in the past we've seen it abused, and certainly no reason why we can't assume it wouldn't happen in the future.
Absolutely.
So people like to keep the lid on the government's power and authority because so much abuse of the past that has shown us when government runs wild and seeks power, they're capable of anything.
So I just got to ask you this. So now that they did this, now that they raided Trump's house, how come the very next day you got Hunter Biden getting on Air Force One with Joe Biden? Now, look, I don't care that Hunter Biden smokes crack. That's what you do is what you do. I don't care about. What I care about is if the president of the United States, Joe Biden, compromised. That's what I care about.
Well, let me ask you this. If you were to get on the plane and you had a criminal record and you said, I want to get on Joe Biden's, the president of the United States plane, do you think they pull that criminal record up and say that you can't
Not
get
his
on
son.
Well, but I'm just saying you would. The average American, they would say, look, you don't meet security clearance. You got a felony. You committed a crime. So again, you see this sliding of the hand based on who you are and what your role in the government is. Is this abuse of power? You know, if Trump did this, they would be all over him.
Oh, my Lord.
So again, it is people playing politics, people trying to manipulate the system to stay in power. Again, Jordan, this just comes down to people getting out and voting. I tell people, look, if you're tired of the government, get in and vote some fresh blood in. Get in and say, look, I'm tired of these guys. I want fresh blood in the government. And find people that you think that are fair and are reasonable and are willing to do what needs to be done to lead this country, because there are so many issues out here that aren't hard to fix. I understand the complexity of things like dealing with China, with Russia. Those are complicated, but the end goal is we got to get away from these people. Do you know that China right now is buying farms that are located close to our military bases? Number one, why would we sell China our farms? So they can say we're not going to plant corn and wheat so we don't have bread to feed our people. Is that a conflict of interest?
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
These things that are happening, why can't we say no to China, and why can't we develop other third world countries and give them a chance and take China out of the spotlight? Because every dollar China makes, they're pointing a weapon at us. And, our administration has to know that. Why don't they care? Why don't they stand up and clarify this with the American people so at least we can sleep better at night? If you have a reason, you say, oh, don't worry about it. Well, tell me what the reason is, because I'm having a little bit of trouble sleeping at night because I'm concerned about how we're doing those things. We can control inflation. We can control gas prices. There's a lot that we can fix in this country that's not that complicated. Am I right or wrong? Tell me what you think.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. The whole thing, though, the whole thing with the FBI, and we're going to switch to a different subject here in just a second, but the whole thing with the FBI is now you have to go after Hunter Biden.
Faithful adherence to the rule of law is the bedrock principle of the Justice Department and of our democracy. Upholding the rule of law means applying the law evenly, without fear or favor. Under my watch, that is precisely what the Justice Department is doing. I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter.
Now you have to go after the Hillary Clintons. Now you have to go after all of these people that you have not been going after because they've been protected by the Biden administration. Now you're going to now Republicans, conservatives. Look, I'm going to just say this, and this is just the New America movement. This is my stance and my dad's stance. If you're a Republican and a conservative and you're running for any position, and you feel like we don't need to dismantle our whole intelligence agencies, we're not going to vote for you. And as a matter of fact, I will get on here and tell people not to vote for you. We have to dismantle our whole intelligence agencies. It's been weaponized. You have people in there who are literally, and I know they're trying to keep their jobs, but they're being weaponized and being told by the president of the United States to go after a political opponent. So we as Republicans and conservatives have to get up here and say, look, this needs to be dismantled and rebuilt.
President Trump put out confirmation on Monday that the raid had been done and was underway. We immediately started seeing factions on the far right, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, militia organizers, calling for violence, as they always have done, against Jews. The Attorney General is Jewish. Against the FBI, federal law enforcement, against other perceived enemies they perceive to be enemies of President Trump. It was like clockwork. And then by the next morning, there was already a body of evidence online of this really ugly, terrible, violent rhetoric that had law enforcement incredibly concerned.